Hi, my name is Doria Martingale, and I'm a third year at the University of Virginia, and I'm majoring in media studies. I am also on the women's track and cross country team, so unfortunately, my outdoor season was cut short due to the outbreak of the coronavirus. Because I now have a lot more free time on my hands, I've decided to combine my two interests of media and sports and have conversations with people through Zoom who both work in athletics and compete as athletes. I'm hoping that anybody watching these videos is able to learn about how people have been impacted by the cancellation of athletics, as well as how people have been able to adjust to the situation. I'm also hoping that anybody who is in high school or younger and is watching these videos is able to take away some really helpful advice from the older athletes. I know that we are all being impacted by this virus in different ways, but I hope you all are staying healthy and happy, and we will get through this eventually, even if it seems like there's no light at the end of the tunnel right now. Today, I'm joined by Quinn Miller. He is a third year on the UVA wrestling team from Lilburn, Georgia, and his family has since moved to Idaho. Thank you for talking to me today. So, where are you spending your quarantine?
I am still in Charlottesville.
Nice. What have you been doing to fill your time?
So other than like school and hanging out with my one teammate that's here in town, I built a pool and I built a hammock and I'm gonna build a swing soon.
Wow.
So I guess just trying to get outside as much as possible.
Yeah, just finding anything to do, be creative, work on skills.
Exactly.
Um, how has your training been impacted by this?
Uh, Completely halted. I don't think I've been on a wrestling mat since spring break, which really sucks. Um, we can still lift, kind of. We can't lift with our strength coach, so that's a bummer too. But we tried getting our team together over Zoom and having like our strength coach put us through some like conditioning type stuff. And the NCAA came out like a week later and told us we can't even do that. So I've just been like looking up body weight CrossFit stuff and just going on jogs and then doing that, just trying to stay in some sort of shape.
Yeah, definitely a hard sport to train for, being that you have constant contact with other people.
Yeah,
Can
it's
be
probably the worst sport.
yeah, definitely easier with running to just go out and get your workout in. Speaking of which, you had just qualified for your first NCAA championship prior to the virus outbreak, or the mass part of the virus outbreak. After qualifying at the ACC tournament, it was, I think, a week before the tournament that everything kind of got shut down. So how did your team initially react to it, and how did you take the news?
It was an interesting day. We all got called in to discuss a Harvard pulling their wrestling team out of nationals and to just like be aware like of the dominoes that could happen. And so then on our way into the meeting, we got word that there were going to be no fans at NCAAs, which would have been weird, but at least we get to go. And then while we're in the meeting discussing everything, the nationals get canceled. So like we're literally in our meeting talking about how we're going to continue to work and how we're going to have to just roll with what's the punches that are given. And then we get the notice that it's just completely canceled and there's nothing we can do. And then as we're leaving that meeting, we're told like we can't even practice, like we can't even get into our own wrestling room, like we're kicked out of our locker room. I had to get special permission to get my own textbooks out of my locker room,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was nuts.
Yeah.
And it impacted me kind of hard because this has been my third season here and I've yet to complete a full season.
Yeah.
So I know it's relatable to some athletes, but having back injuries coming out of high school, I redshirted and then tore my ACL second year, and now third year, like season's canceled. So it's been hard, but it's part of it, I guess. Just gotta kind of roll with it.
Yeah. And so you've clearly faced a lot of adversity with injuries in your first and second year, making this a redshirt freshman year.
Right.
Definitely unique to most people. But, you've clearly been able to bounce back from those challenges and let that motivate you. How has this impacted your mindset going into your fourth year, but your second season with the team?
I think it's just I'm able to continue to build on the skills that I have. So it's definitely changed a little bit now that we can't do anything wrestling wise. I'm like running more. So I know like my conditioning that way has been better. And hopefully it'll turn into a habit once our season can or once practice comes back in and I can continue to like run and run more and be in better shape. And it's just like not being able to finish my season, it's like now there's just an even bigger drive. Like I place fifth at ACCs, and it's like now there's the bar. So now with the goals I have for myself and I want to reach, like if that's where the bar is set, I need to pass that.
Since this has all happened, the NCAA came out with the decision to not reward that last season, based on basically, I think, the fact that all that was left was a one tournament. Although it was the NCAA tournament, probably the pinnacle of the wrestling season. But I know you have teammates on your team, such as Jack Mueller, who didn't have any eligibility left after this year and was going for that NCAA title. And you have other teammates who weren't necessarily still competing, but still showing up to practice, being around them. What has that kind of thought process been like, losing these teammates a lot sooner than you thought? And how has that impacted your team and your experience?
It's definitely weird this year saying our goodbyes, in that meeting in during spring break because no, we got instructed over spring break to just not even come back. I mean, I was in a particular situation where this is, my home. So, but everyone else is gone. So it's just weird not to have that goodbye. It's also like for our seniors, like they don't get that time to like hang out and like be outside the sport and be like a normal student, I guess, because that's like the only time for us that we're not dealing with our sport. So then they're just everyone, is at home. It's just weird.
Yeah, it's
Hard to
definitely
put into words.
end. Yeah. Um, and obviously, since this has happened, there's been even bigger news with certain wrestling programs canceling their entire program, including in-state competition, ODU, who you guys wrestled earlier this year and have a history of All-Americans and great products coming out of that school. So with all these financial concerns to programs after losing March Madness and facing potentially a shortened college football season, what does that worry you about, the wrestling across the country, not necessarily just at UVA, but wrestling as a whole?
I'm not too concerned for wrestling as a whole. There's a lot of information that's come out about the whole ODU wrestling thing and how they have funded their programs poorly.
Hmm.
So I think we do a much better job. I would have to do a lot more research on that to correctly answer that question.
Yeah.
But um, as for wrestling across the country, it's certainly going to be different. Um, I don't know. I would really hope wrestling doesn't more programs do not get cut. As we were before Corona, we were growing as a sport. There were more and more colleges adding like female wrestling, and our Olympic training centers are like growing at each individual schools. So, like as a sport, we're increasing. This does put a damper on it, but as for like fear for like big programs or more programs getting cut, even ODU was a huge shocker. So I don't see that being like a normal.
Yeah, definitely hope it doesn't become normal. Um, but certainly we don't really know anything going on. It's really a confusing time. But speaking of the sport growing as a whole, obviously wrestling is really big in high school. You were a high school wrestler, as were all of your teammates, in order to get recruited. And the time in the spring after the regular season for most high school wrestling programs is really big with national competitions and kind of that last push, especially for seniors to get recruited before the summertime. So what advice do you have for high school wrestlers who are in this position of not really having an opportunity to prove themselves in competition?
I can relate to some people that are using or needed the senior year nationals to get recruited because that's how I was found by UVA. It was my senior year national trip. So for this year to get canceled, I I couldn't even imagine if I wasn't allowed to even go how I would have reacted. I mean, I have no idea. So I think my encouragement would be to just get in contact with as many people as you can. I know plenty of athletes here that just on a whim just emailed the coaches their film and was like, hey, like I really want to play for you or wrestle for you. And who knows, maybe they were looking at you without you even knowing it, and you showing interest is gonna make them pull the string on you more than someone else that doesn't show interest.
It's definitely a time to self-advocate, and you've got the time to do so. So it's
Exactly.
really important without these events and national showcases. What is something that, since you've had all this time outside of online learning, what is something that you've really learned about yourself or looking to explore during quarantine?
I've picked up reading. This is weird.
Okay.
I've been through like 3 books already, which just you usually don't have the time for between 2 practices a day and a couple hours of class and then trying to eat and just go to bed for tomorrow and the next day. Now I have all this time. Been running through books, so that's fun. I've been trying to learn how to knit. It's not going well, so we'll keep learning that one.
You'll have to FaceTime your teammate, Brian Courtney, get him to
I
show you
tried.
how it's done.
Tried.
What books have you been reading?
So right now I'm reading Grit or The Power of Grit, and I just finished. Oh, what was it? Jake, what was the book I just finished? David and Goliath. That's it.
um, and obviously we have been switched to Zoom and online learning. What have kind of been the advantages and struggles with that switch to online learning since spring break?
Honestly, I can't really find any advantages. I hate it. Um, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that in the interview, but it
You're fine.
sucks. Um, struggles has really been, and I've talked about this with a lot of people because I know a lot of people are dealing with this, just the scheduling, like, and the structure. I knew when I needed to get up. I knew when practice was. I knew when I was eating. I knew class times. And just, everything was in place where it needed to be and where I needed to be at what time. And it was really nice to just be able to have that structure. But now some classes are pre-recorded and I can watch those at 6 a.m. or 9 p.m. It doesn't matter. And that's
Yeah.
weird to me. I don't like it. And other classes still have that same time, but because it's online, it's nowhere near as personal as being in class and being able to have that face to face. It's just not the same. So that has really been something I've had to struggle with and deal with.
Yeah. Are you planning on staying in Charlottesville for the remainder of quarantine or going home at any point?
Um, for the near future, yes. Probably till school ends, yes. I don't know how long into summer I'll be here. Um, I'll have to talk with my parents or the internship over the summer to see if I go home to Idaho or if I go to Atlanta to see my brothers for a couple weeks. I don't know yet.
Yeah,
But
so you mentioned an internship. What were you planning or trying to do this summer, and how has that been impacted so far by the coronavirus?
so I was gonna intern with the Virginia Athletic Fund, and honestly, I don't even know. um, I think they're struggling just as much as everyone else. Um, I couldn't even answer that question. I have no idea.
Yeah, that's
So
fair.
I'm hoping I at least still have an internship.
Yeah, I mean, my brother is planning on interning in Nevada, and I think he's supposed to leave in May and still doesn't know if that's going to be happening or not. So
Yeah,
there's so
so I
much
know
uncertainty.
everyone is just struggling trying to figure out what to do next. So
Yeah.
couldn't even tell you.
Well, to end on a more positive note, what has been the most fun experience so far that you've had in this quarantine, and what's been the most exciting thing that you have done?
I'd say building all the stuff in my backyard has been a blast. It's nice to be outside. Um, the pool's kind of small and it's really cold, so it really just feels like an ice bath at this point. But it's nice after doing those like CrossFit workouts to just hop in.
Yeah.
The hammock is on nice sunny days with a good breeze. It's fantastic. Just lay out there, do my reading. Um, so just building stuff, being outside. I didn't get to do that before, so that's really, really nice, really fun.
Well, thank you so much for talking with me today. I hope that you are staying safe and healthy during quarantine, and good luck with the rest of classes. I know we've got a couple weeks left, so good luck with that final push.
Stay strong.